Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here for the final installment of Teaching Artists Tuesdays 2026. I can't believe we've already done 3 sessions, but here we are. Very, very excited to conclude our series with this session called Navigating Bureaucracy, put together by our friends at the Brooklyn Arts Council. For those who haven't met me yet, my name's Kinsey. I'm the programs director here at the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. I am a white woman with chin length brown hair. I'm wearing some large round wire framed glasses and a very cozy burnt orange and cream tie-dye sweater. And I am in front of a blurred background. Um, and I'm thrilled to be here with you tonight. If you aren't familiar with the Roundtable, we are a grassroots service organization that works to improve and advance the state of arts education through things like professional development, advocacy, re-granting programs, connecting folks with resources, and all sorts of stuff like that for the arts education field. Although right now we are meeting online via Zoom, the Roundtable would like to acknowledge that we do work and live on unceded lands. Mannahatta, or the place also known as New York City, exists on the contemporary and ancestral homelands of the Canarsie, Munsee Lenape, and Wappinger people. These sovereign nations and communities are still thriving here, and we continue to occupy their lands. So we would like to give a moment of respect to them, as well as to the Black and Brown and immigrant communities, which have helped to build the city we know and love today, and continue to do so. As we recognize that all of our pasts, presents, and futures are intertwined, we would also like to uplift a handful of contemporary Indigenous arts organizations that we can all support and learn from. So if you haven't before, now is your opportunity. Save these links, check out these organizations, support them with donations if you can. And I also invite anyone on the call who has other organizations they would like to highlight to share those in the chat now. Thanks, all. Just a few more reminders. If you're having any trouble with Zoom, please do send me a private message. My name's Kinsey. I'm here to help. Please keep your mic on mute unless you are the person speaking. We encourage you to use the chat to connect with other folks on the call. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end, so please put your questions in the chat. I will collect them. We will get as many of them answered as we can. This call does include captions. So to activate your captions, click the captions button on your toolbar. It may be under the More section and select Show Captions, and they should auto-populate for you. And lastly, this session is being recorded. It will be made available to registrants in the next week or so with all of the other resources and recordings from the rest of this series. So look for that email from me along with a survey. We would love your feedback. And that's plenty from me. Now, it is my sincere pleasure to turn it over to our moderator for tonight's conversation, who's going to kick things off. Please join me in welcoming Skye Kowaleski, Director of Artistic Programs, Learning and Engagement at Brooklyn Arts Council. Welcome, Skye. Take it away.
Hi. Thank you so much, Kinsey. Hi, everyone. I'm Skye Kowaleski. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a white person with short hair shaved on the side. I'm wearing a blue overshirt and a green t-shirt with a gold chain around my neck, and I have a blurred background. And I am so grateful to be with you tonight, moderating this conversation, navigating bureaucracy. And I'm going to introduce our panelists in just a moment, who are going to graciously talk about what it means to navigate bureaucracy. We're going to be focusing on 3 key areas. The first is healthcare, the second is housing, and the third is navigating local government. Now, you will notice that we titled this session Navigating Bureaucracy. We didn't title it All of the Amazing Government Systems That Are Here to Help You and Make Your Life So Easy All of the Time. We know that these systems are at best really difficult to navigate, and at worst, they are designed to be inequitable and difficult to navigate. So we're not going to solve that. in our session here tonight, just to level set some expectations. But we will talk a little bit about what are some tools and tricks and resources that can make your lives at least maybe 1% easier. And then we'll also talk about what does it mean to advocate to change some of these systems and how can you get involved in those advocacy efforts. Okay, so without further ado, I am going to introduce our panel. We have Karlynn Holland, who is from T1 International and New York Insulin for All. And each of our panelists is going to give a larger introduction of themselves when we get to each section. We have Yannerys Castillo from Fifth Avenue Committee with us in the house. And we have Justin Freeman from Gallery Particulier. I'm so grateful to have them with us tonight. So, we're going to go through section by section, although I've invited our panelists to jump in with any information that they have to share on any of the questions that I ask one particular panelist. So, first, we'll be focusing on healthcare. So, I'm going to kick it over to Karlynn. Can you introduce yourself, please? Give your name, your pronouns, your affiliations again, and a little bit about your relationship to the arts, because each of our panelists also have their own unique relationship to arts and some sort of arts background.
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Karlynn Holland. I am a patient advocate for people living with insulin-dependent diabetes through New York Insulin for All and also T1 International. I hold a master's in public health where I concentrated in biostatistics from SUNY Downstate Medical Center. I work at one of our local arts institutions here, an art museum called the Noguchi Museum, and I am a practicing artist, an illustrator, and painter. Thank you for having me.
So much good stuff. Okay. So, can you give us just a quick and dirty explainer on basic healthcare terminology that folks might have heard tossed around, but they might not be able to distinguish? So, we're talking about distinguishing differences between public and private health insurance, marketplace, Medicare, and Medicaid. Give us a rundown.
Absolutely. So let's start with, how does your health insurance work? Right? If you have health insurance, that's going to be your mode for payments and access to a lot of your care. And there's a lot of terms because health insurance is complicated on purpose. I like to say that health insurance works exactly as it was designed to, which is to make money. And as a secondary consideration, it allows access to care. So health insurance, you have a premium. That's what you're going to pay every month for your health insurance plan. And then you have cost sharing associated with that plan. Cost sharing has several parts. One is a deductible. This is the amount you pay each year before your insurance kicks in. So when you see your plans, the deductible, that's the amount you're going to kind of pay up front. You have a copay. Copays are how much you pay per visit and how much you pay for your prescriptions. Sometimes things are covered before the deductible is met. Sometimes you have to meet the deductible first. You have co-insurance. This is what happens after you meet the deductible. This is when your insurance is fully enrolled. And so you've already, let's say your deductible is $1,000. You've already spent $1,000 out of pocket. Now, when you have a procedure or you go to see your doctor, co-insurance is the percentage you're going to be billed for after that visit. Finally, you have something called an out-of-pocket max. This is the maximum amount that you have to pay for the year. So if your deductible is $1,000, you may have an out-of-pocket max of $2,500 or more. Once you meet that, your insurance covers the rest for the rest of the year. Anything that's under that plan will now be covered fully by the insurance. We have a lot of different types of insurance to add to the complexity of our system. So if you are a low-income person, you may qualify for Medicaid, in which case you can either sign up through a company through the marketplace, or you can take what's called fee-for-service. That's the state-run Medicaid option. If you're over 65 in the United States, you would qualify for Medicare. That's a federal program. I'm not going to go too much into that. And then in terms of state options, we do have something here called the Essential Plan. That's for individuals who make $39,125 or less in the year. We have emergency Medicaid. I just put that out there that this will cover you if you're not insured, but you need cancer treatment, or you become pregnant, or you show up at an emergency room like with a broken arm or something like that. They have to treat you. And if you cannot pay, they are supposed to, in New York State, enroll you in emergency Medicaid. Finally, we have the Marketplace, where you can get your own insurance plans. The Marketplace is open November 1st to January 31st of every year. And that's where you can roll over to the New York State website. You can see the different plans, and then you can look at the plan summaries, which will give you the breakdown of your premium and cost sharing, which again is your deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance, and out-of-pocket maxes. Would you like me to also go into places you can get care right now, or should we keep
Let's save
moving?
that for a little bit later.
Okay, so those are
Um,
your insurance plans and how your insurance works here in New York State.
Amazing. So where are we in the cycle of signing up for health insurance right now, at least marketplace health insurance? Can you talk a little bit about that? And I'll have a follow-up question shortly after you do that.
The marketplace has closed for this year, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be planning for next year. Now is a really great time to track all of your expenses and everything you think you're going to need for next year so that you can get an estimate for yourself. That includes how much money you think you're going to be making next year and also what kind of care you're going to want. That's make a list of all the prescriptions that you normally use and your doctor's visits. Like, do you see an eye doctor? Do you see a specialist? Do you plan to maybe start a family next year? All of those things are things you might want to consider when picking out your marketplace plan for the following year. If you have signed up for a marketplace plan, you might notice that the premiums have gone up quite a lot due to an expiration of federal subsidies. And the one thing I'll say there is this year is a really great year to be contacting your federal representatives, but I'll leave that to Justin to explain a little more.
Amazing. Thank you. Around what time are signups for marketplace health insurance so folks can be planning?
November 1st is when the marketplace will open up again. That's in this year, 2026, and it will be open through January 31st, 2027. You have that entire time. There are free healthcare navigators available through the New York State Marketplace that can help you estimate your costs. And it's a really good time now just to do some research, to go look at the website, go ahead, make your account in advance. That way, when November rolls around, you can get an early start on it and really consider what your options are.
Okay, cool. So we're planning for November 1st, but what if we are going without health insurance this year for any number of reasons? Either we've opted to, or we missed the deadline, and we're staring down some of those medical costs. What are some of our resources this year for mitigating the costs of that we might incur in our healthcare?
So the most expensive place for you to get care is the emergency room, right? We all know that, but not every emergency room is the same. We have two different types of hospital systems here in the city specifically, and also in the state. But in the city, we have the health and hospital system. That's our public system. That is Bellevue and other health and hospitals. They are going to work with you on your billing, but they may not offer you the same quality or level of care. Your wait times might be longer and services may be a little more restricted just in terms of like immediate care. Like, you go to the emergency room, they have to treat you regardless of your ability to pay, no matter which emergency room you go to. But if you go to Bellevue, you're going to have a very different billing experience after that treatment versus going to one of the, I'm going to call them private, even though technically they're not for profits, but that would be NYU, Mount Sinai, Columbia. Those institutions are not also overseen by our city and state governments. They operate as their own business entities, and so they have their own billing departments. A good alternative to the emergency room is urgent care. Urgent care is always going to be cheaper if you can do that. Let's say you need Plan B, or you have a urinary tract infection, or something that's acute. You want to get treatment right away, but you don't want $1,000 bill from the emergency room. Go to urgent care. Urgent care is your better option there. We also have a lot of not-for-profit clinics. Two examples, Callan Lord is great. Here they have several centers and are continuing to do what they can for like things like gender affirming care. And we also have Planned Parenthood is a great option as a not-for-profit clinic. Often these are pay what you can, but they do accept insurance. If you have health insurance and you get your care there, you're actually helping subsidize other people's care as well. The last thing I'll say is always negotiate your bill. If you do end up needing emergency care, you get a high bill, you don't have to just pay it right away. Call them, tell them you can't afford it. They may ask for things like, proof of income or proof that maybe you're between jobs, but all of them will negotiate the bill with you. They'd rather take some payment over no payment.
Amazing tips and tricks. Thank you so much for those resources. If you have questions for Karlynn on healthcare, we're going to take questions at the end, so go ahead and just write them down and we'll come back to them. I am going to move us on to and we'll also come back to our advocacy section because I know you teased us a little bit of what we can do to advocate. We're going to have a big, robust discussion on that. And I'm going to pop us over to Yannerys Castillo from Fifth Avenue Committee. Yannerys, do you want to say hello and just tell us your name? I already said your affiliation, pronouns, and a little bit more about what you do. And I know you have like some family members relationship to the arts.
Sorry, I was muted. So hello, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Yannerys Castillo. I use the pronouns she, her. As far as I work with Fifth Avenue Committee. I've been with the agency with the nonprofit organization for 14 years. I am the program manager of community services, which is known as their benefits department. So we help the community access public benefits. And the most common ones are like food stamps, cash assistance. We have free financial coaching, free tax preparation that's going on now. We have a lot, a robust source of services. So I would highly advise to visit our website. I also entered my contact information and website on the chat, so you can get more familiar with all of the other programs that we offer. And as far as my connection to arts, I don't have any, probably do, but I do have a 8-year-old who loves to draw, sing and dance. And then I have an 18-year-old who's currently pursuing her BFA in acting at SUNY Purchase. So we're excited for that.
We love this. This is a connection to the arts. Also, this is a room full of teaching artists who teach kids art.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
so amazing. Thank you so much for being with us. I just want to highlight free tax prep. Amazing. Head over to check out the resources at Fifth Avenue Committee if you need some support with that.
And it's
but I'm
great.
Amazing. Yes. We love free tax prep. We love free tax help. All right, I'm going to ask you some questions about housing specifically tonight. So tell us about Fifth Avenue Community's resources available for artists and anyone hoping to apply to housing lottery or affordable housing across the city.
Yeah, so Fifth Avenue Committee is a we are listed as a HPD, as a HUD housing ambassador. So that helps participants gain access. Well, no, we can assist participants. Apologies, I'm a bit nervous. We can assist participants in going through Housing Connect. So creating a profile, apply for open lotteries, kind of help navigate through the portal, and kind of troubleshoot as well. So we can assist participants with Housing Connect. We can also help them get on wait lists with New York Housing Authority developments. Unfortunately, the wait time is quite lengthy. With Housing Connect, it is lottery-based developments and opportunities, and so the turnaround is not quite as quick as participants would like for it to be.
On average, what's that wait time looking like right now? Can you give us a ballpark?
It honestly depends on the development, but usually I've seen from 6 months of just like getting contacted, not moving in. It's probably longer, but maybe from 6 months to a year. And some participants have been on wait lists for many years, for over 5 years.
Yeah, got it. Can you walk us through what that application process looks like for housing lotteries?
Yeah, so in Housing Connect, open lotteries are based on your household size and income. And so when you enter this information, you can refine the search so that you can plug in your information and it would only spit out developments that will that you will be eligible for. And so unfortunately, what happens is some of these developments, although they are called affordable housing and Housing Connect, some of them are not quite affordable. And so they go based on the area, AMI, so it's the area medium income of the neighborhood. And so it could just mean that one neighborhood is way more expensive than the other. And although a development is listed in Housing Connect, that does not necessarily mean that it's 100% affordable. And so only certain units are for, an offset of, of participants.
Yeah, I think basically, so we're referring to housing developers like getting buildings approved by allocating like a percentage of quote unquote affordable units within the building
Project
that they're then
development.
opening.
Yep, exactly.
Great. So what are some of the things that folks will be asked for that they can look towards preparing in the application process?
So the most common documents are your ID, social, tax return, usually the last 2 or 3, bank statements, usually the last 6. And all of these documents, we can also assist you upload, or you can just upload yourself in the platform. So when you are contacted, this is very important. If selected for a lottery, you will be contacted via email. Unfortunately, not via phone, not a letter. It would be via email. So this is why it is very important that your information is up to date. And so when you receive this email being asked to upload documents, you do it through Housing Connect. And specifically, I do want to highlight some information and documents that I was appointed to for self-employed individuals just like yourself. So 2 of them that I do want to highlight is a self-employment affidavit that needs to be notarized, basically you claiming your income to show your eligibility. And then the certified public accountant income verification letter, so a CPA letter from an accountant, preferably one that you have gone to and have a relationship with that can kind of also attest to your income. As I've noticed, and it has been brought to my attention, that some participants may have been denied because they can't show that their income meets eligibility requirement or can't afford the apartment. So these are ways that you can prepare.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, we
Yeah.
know that for artists who are gig working and don't necessarily have consistent income, can't predict their
Yeah,
income from year to year. This goes for health
exactly.
insurance too. It's really difficult to say, like, okay, this is how much I think I'm going to be making next year. So when we're looking at housing lotteries where it is very income based and you will need to prove your income to demonstrate that you qualify for a certain income threshold, these are two resources that you can use to verify that your income is what you say it is so that you are not denied those opportunities where you actually were you to be selected for the
Mhm.
housing lottery. Can you say those two forms one more time?
Yes, so it's going to be included in the resource guide, but the
Beautiful.
two forms are a self-employment affidavit, and then the other one is a CPA income verification letter. So it's a certified public accountant income verification letter.
Beautiful. Great. Yeah. So just want to highlight these resources. I think we're all trying to navigate systems
Yeah.
that are not designed for for us, but if we can kind of trick the system that way, really helpful to be able to do that and verify that the income is what we say it is, even if it might not be super predictable from year to year.
Yeah.
Um,
I do have one more thing. I
no,
do
go
want to
for it.
just share, yeah, that Fifth Avenue Committee actually hosts monthly Housing Connect workshops. And so you can visit one of them, join one of them to kind of ask these similar questions or any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Do you know what the next one is offhand? We can also look it up.
I can I
Okay.
can plug it in the chat.
All good. No, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was so excited. Great. And yeah, I think we will move, or I will say to you, what types of advocacy? I know that Fifth Avenue Committee is also working on advocacy. What types of advocacy are you working on that folks might consider getting involved in if they're, wishing to create a more accessible health or housing in our city?
Yeah, so your voice is definitely needed, but I do want to just go back to what Karlynn was saying. Our next speaker, Justin Freeman, who is going to be talking about local government, it's extremely important that you get to know your elected officials, and voice your concerns and to make sure that we continue this fight for affordable housing here in New York City.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a perfect segue over to Justin. I'd like to introduce Justin Freeman. Justin, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Skye. So my name is Justin Freeman. My pronouns are he, him. I am the co-director of Gallery Particulier, which is located in Flatbush. And I've also worked in state government for the past 5 years, connecting constituents with vital resources and services, especially like around housing and unemployment, connecting folks to legal services. And I've also worked in a lot of organizing spaces, particularly like tenant organizing spaces. Um, Another important part of the work that I do, I think, is also political education um, and civic training. So it's a little bit about me. Also, I'm from Flatbush, and I still live in Flatbush.
Amazing. Yeah, I just want to plug Gallery Particulier is the gallery in Flatbush. It's amazing, super cozy, and super exciting, and you should check it out. So, Justin, first, we could do a whole session on this. So I'm going to ask something unfair of you. In like 2 minutes, can
Hmm.
you give us an overview of the structure of local government? So council, community board, mayor's office, assembly, state, senate, and congressional. And what do these folks do? What are the different places that they're responsible for? Oh, amazing
Yes,
presentation.
we have a visual, but
Yes.
I also want to say, like, I don't want to pretend like there's a magic like shortcut to this stuff. You know what I mean? I think as you had
Yeah.
alluded to, like in the intro, like I feel like I'm here to help people aim at the right level of government to create a paper trail and to escalate in a way that hopefully gets some traction for you. And so, if you leave with cleaner next steps than you came here with, then we all did our job, right? So right. So the who controls what, right? So this slide is kind of like a mental model that I want you to hold. So before you do anything, you have an issue, right? Ask who can change this issue for you, who funds it or enforces it, right? So the city, day-to-day life stuff, right? Services, enforcement, 311 inspections, permits. So agencies like Housing Preservation Development, which will come to your home if your landlord isn't, if you call 311 and you have like a really crazy repair, like a leak. HRA, housing, sorry, uh, uh, sorry, I'm blanking on the acronym, but
Housing Preservative Development.
or Human Resources Administration, HRA, sorry. They, provide one-shot deals, cash assistance. They're extremely helpful if you need help with getting like a one-shot deal for rent, right? To help pay rent. Department of Education, they oversee like schools, Department of Transportation, road-related issues. And then the state, which is where most of my experience is where a lot of like the state laws, the rules are at, and where money structure lives. Even like, New York City gets money from the state. And so there's labor enforcement, unemployment insurance, which a lot of like folks have issues with. The office that I worked in, it was like the second biggest issue. So that's through the Department of Labor. Tenant protections, which is particularly for rent stabilized tenants. If you can get a rent stabilized tenant apartment, that's amazing. But that's handled through Department of Housing, Communities and Renewal, DHCR. And the broader framework that shapes how a lot of these systems run. And then there's federal, and that's national programs and laws. So that's immigration is a big one. Social Security, taxes, and big funding streams that shape what states and cities can do. And we understand right now Trump is withholding funds for a lot of things. And, so that's things that we have to consider with the services that we have. So if you're unsure who like represents you, there's a great tool that I'm going to share in the chat real quick. So it's boundaries.beta.nyc. And you can use it to find out who represents you. You can put in your address and it shows you your city council member, your assembly member, your state senator, all the way to fire department, right? So it's really good information. You find out what district you're in and you can go online to look up the exact information on how to contact those people. So, I feel like a big takeaway here is if you aim at the wrong level, you can do everything right and still get nowhere.
That's super helpful. Do you have more, or do you want me to move to the next question?
Yes, if
Yes,
you move to the
amazing.
next slide,
You
right?
go.
Escalation ladder, really important. So this slide is how to move things, basically the model on how to move things, right? So you've got step one, you've got the issue, you log it, call 311, get the ticket request number, get an email, or contact an agency portal, screenshot and save it, right? Then the next thing you want to do is follow up. You can use the case number to reach out to your local elected official around the specific issue, either state, city, or federal. Ask for a timeline, and you're looking for status, next steps, and when, right? Step 3 is escalate. So you want to loop in an elected official with the receipts that as I had mentioned, with the case number, timeline, and key documents, any information that you have to help, address your case and make it easier for the elected official to contact the relevant agency to get some movement on your case. I think this is a really important piece here. I think this is where you can get some movement. There's step 4, the pattern. So if you happen to have 3 or 5 other people impacted by the same thing, same ask, same timeline, one thread, it's not just organizing as a concept, it's a practical like pressure technique. So, we try to get systems to respond faster to patterns than individuals. So I think like as an example, unemployment benefit delays is really something that impacts a lot of people. So the Department of Labor, they're understaffed, underfunded, and the process can be slow. And even when you feel like you've done everything right. So 2 practical moves I feel like is get support from groups who do this all day. I have in the resources that I'm going to share, there's an organization called Workers Defense League. You can give them a call and they'll reach back out to you in the next 24 to 48 hours. And if a claim gets delayed or stuck, your local state assembly member can help escalate and get a real status update. It doesn't, fix the whole system or whatever, but it can help move a log jam. We end up like getting people $10,000 in back pay and unemployment insurance benefit delays. All right, next slide. Email an elected office. I think sometimes these are things that people don't even think to do. So this is kind of like a template that you can use, but the point is to make it easy for staff at the office to act fast. Most offices are really just a triage machine, so as clear as possible. If you can be clear and have some clarity about the situation, it's basically the power that you have to be able to communicate the information clearly with them. Obviously, your subject line should be, tight, issue, location, and the case number if you have it. And then your, let's say, one sentence, multi-sentence issue, what's happening and who it impacts, then the ask. Not like just help me, right? But please contact this agency to confirm status and next steps in writing, or please request an inspection, or please escalate this stalled claim. Then you add your reference number, your timeline, and whatever attachments that can help expedite your case. And I feel like, the rule at the bottom is real, like first story asks first, story second, and staff can't escalate what they can't summarize. All right. So if you send a long story, unfortunately it'll just get skimmed. If you send a clean ask with receipts, it's way more likely to get some movement on it. All right. And one last thing I wanted to say, closing with, I think it connects to why artists are uniquely positioned here. Artists already do half of the organizing work, right? You know how to tell a story, gather a room, and build trust fast. The move is pointing that skill at a specific target with a specific ask. So like I said, think story, target, and ask. What's happening and why it matters, who can actually change it, and the one concrete thing that you want to get done. And, if you notice, you and your neighbors notice that the system keeps failing you individually, that's a sign that you need collective pressure. That can be other artists dealing with the same agency, parents at the same school, tenants in the same building, mutual aid networks, whatever your community is. The point is, ultimately, patterns move systems. So if you stay quiet and siloed, nothing is going to change.
That is so amazing. And thank you for that clear and structured breakdown about the steps to follow. I love that, like, ask who has the power, who has the power to change it, as the direction. And I think there's a lot of good, beautiful advice in there about how to get people to pay attention to your ask. So frustrating when we're just emailing and emailing, and to know what's the thing that's going to pop, for someone. so that they can be efficient. Your last point really brings us to my question for all of our panelists tonight, and we'll end here before we go to your questions, which is these structures and systems can end up feeling really disempowering for folks. What is ways that folks can take their power back? So this might be advocacy in terms of changing the system or other suggestions that you have. Anyone can start.
I'm happy to kick us off. First, just one quick addendum to what I spoke about, which is a heads up that often plans with higher premiums have lower cost sharing. So you may want to consider that when looking at your total cost for the year. Sometimes it pays to pay up front. Not always. You'll have to break that down yourself. All right. And in terms of asks, federal subsidies for the marketplaces expired this year, and that's why the marketplace plans got so expensive. You can call your federal reps, that's your House of Representatives, and your and your national senators. So these are the people in Congress, and say, we need those subsidies back. I cannot afford these premiums. That's on the federal, the national level. On the state level, I really want to plug the New York Health Act. That is our state's bill for a single payer system. That's a system that would cover every single person, regardless of whether even you have a social security number. If you live and live or work in New York, you would be covered under the New York Health Act. The bill numbers will be included in the resource packet, and this is your local representative. So that's your state assembly person, your state senator, and the governor's office. Reach out to all three and ask for the New York Health Act. It's long overdue. It's cheaper. I'm happy to answer any questions and throw studies at anyone who has those questions. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks. And I am putting a link to what I think is the bill in the chat, but you'll tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I can take a stab at that question. I feel like government is intentionally like opaque and Byzantine, and I think that alone can feel empowering, but I think just getting this information from us is like a step towards like power. Like what are we doing? What we're doing here today is like demystifying government. Um and this first step, knowledge, literally as cliche as it sounds, knowledge is power. Knowledge of what resources are available to you. There are so many underutilized resources. It's crazy. So like just thinking about housing, there are so many people that don't realize they, as a senior, or if they have disabilities, if they live in rent stabilized housing, they're eligible for some sort of rent freeze, right? And we run into so many people that have fallen behind on rent, or have rent arrears, and they wouldn't be in that position if they had the knowledge. But then it's like you can't have that information on your own. You've got to share it as a collective. And so there's power in numbers. And our apartments have us living in like these little, have us atomized, right? And you have to wonder the intention behind that. But it literally, like, a power move is knocking on your neighbor's door. That's the power move right there, because that's going against what the systems want us to do, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think I just want to highlight that because you talk about like the escalation system being about finding a pattern. So the way that we find a pattern is to knock on our neighbor's door and identify who else in our building, like say we're, dealing with something in a tenant's rights issue. There's an issue in our building. We think we're the only one. And then we knock on our neighbor's door and we're like, oh yeah, you're experiencing that too. You're experiencing that. You're experiencing that. And all of a sudden we've got a pattern and we can organize. Um, Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Do you have any legislation that you want to lift up right now, Justin, specifically?
Um, I would say, storefronts are really important, right? And so commercial rent stabilization, there's a bill on the Senate, state Senate, um, and the Assembly. I can't remember the name of the exact bill, but storefronts are really important. They're third spaces. If we don't maintain them, they're an aspect of gentrification, right? That I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about. Artists need these spaces, right? These spaces are vital. So can you imagine there's rent stabilized apartments, but there is no stabilization for storefronts? They pay exorbitant rates. So it's not only talking about rent stabilization or deed theft, which are two important things, homes and apartments, but also these third spaces where the arts thrive. So if there's anything that I would plug, you know, that connects to this is that.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Yannerys, anything you have to add?
I don't have much to say. I mean, I think my colleagues have shared great resources. Just know that you do have power. And it's important to document, it's important to voice, it's important to fight in any kind of way, even though the pace may be extremely slow, it's moving somewhere.
Amazing. Yes. Receipts, receipts, receipts. I heard that a lot. Keep your documents, elevate them, have those receipts on hand. Amazing. I think we're ready to kick it over to questions. Thank you so much to our panel for all that amazing wisdom that you have shared. I'll open it up.
Yeah, I also just want to say thank you. Wow, I feel like incredible amount of resources and information truncated into 50 minutes was amazing. Folks, if you do have questions, I didn't see any in the chat, so feel free to drop them in the chat if you'd like to. Also, feel free to raise a hand and come off of mute. Adrian, I see your hand. Would you like to get us started?
Sure. I have three questions, one for each person. So I'll start with Karlynn. I apologize if I said that incorrectly. Um, do you have any more information or testimonies about those clinics that you said they offer pay what you can, but when people use their insurance, it can help other people? Like that just was like, oh, wait a minute, that's pretty cool. Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about those kinds of places?
Oh, of course. Callan Lord has been around for decades now. They came out of gay men's health advocacy and the women's group. I can't remember their name, but originally it was for STD and HIV testing, and it grew into like full healthcare centers that are now connected with what's called a 403B pharmacy. That's a subsidized pharmacy that can sell at cost or subsidized below cost for medications. And the way they've structured themselves is they have fundraised and created their own kind of endowments. So they see everyone that shows up at their door, regardless of their ability to pay. If you have insurance, the insurance is your payer. And so your care is covered plus a little bit, and then they kick that back into taking care of other people who maybe don't have insurance or are underinsured. They may have insurance with, say, a high deductible that they can't meet every year because they can't afford it. And so instead of rationing their care, they can go to a place like this where they can get their needs met. There are others. I will try to get a more comprehensive list, but a good resource is Community Service Society New York, or CSSNY. They have a wonderful website and a list of clinics that are around the city, as well as social workers who will help you connect you to care.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a really cool concept. I really like that. Yannerys, do you have any housing advice for folks with disabilities? I know that there are more direct things for people with like sight disabilities, maybe hearing. But I'm more so those on the cusp of that, like epilepsy and some like mental health disorders that aren't quite necessary to go into a facility, but they still need some assistance. Do you have any advice or any past stories or situations?
Yeah, thanks. So for Housing Connect specifically, there is some like hearing and vision impaired, where if like there's accommodations that needs to be done to the unit, right, for those individuals. Justin shared the information on like if you are receiving disability and are in a rent stabilized building, you can apartment, you can get your rent frozen. So that's a resource as well, and we can help with those applications. But I do want to let you know that specifically as far as like priority, when it comes to affordable housing, unfortunately, there isn't any priority specifically for the disabled unless you are elderly. And there are some priorities if like someone is coming from the shelter system. But if there are opportunities for like supportive housing, and I can share some resources there as well, because it's a little bit more case specific. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, my
Definitely.
best friend is in an interesting gray area, so I'm
Mm,
trying to help him navigate while also give him an opportunity to try some things. We're definitely going to sign up
yeah.
for
Have them
the I think later in
the
March you will
workshop.
have, yes. So I got that
Yes. So
saved
we
and
have a
adding it to it.
workshop, but give us a call sooner and we can we can connect you to our tenant advocate that has great resources about housing, supportive housing, and help you even apply for Housing Connect.
Love it. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Justin, do you have any stories of success, and also possibly stories of, or a story of success and a story of failure, with like artist-led initiatives that you've seen? Like, I know you gave some examples, but do you have like a testimony or like a scenario that you know kind of worked or didn't work? Like people tried, they probably just needed to reimagine or something.
That is a great question. Artist-led initiatives. I would say, you know, well, I think this is kind of like an artist-led initiative. But I have worked on along with other artists through Gallery Particulier. Um, we hosted storytelling events with the backdrop of like a show exhibit. So, last year we did a show called New York City Mosaic, Corner by Corner, where I worked with 4 different artists to exhibit their work, and they came from the spectrum of the type of artist was very wide ranging. Um, one artist in particular was a tenant organizer. He lived in an apartment building not far. Um, one of the storytellings that we did with that show as a backdrop was called Because Solidarity. And what we did was we reached out to different community-based organizations to come support the event through telling a story around the services that they provide for people in around the area. And then at the end of the event, of all the people that came, we shared of all the community-based organizations, which was like around 8 that came, we got down all of the resources that they had connections to and shared that in a newsletter to everyone that came. So, we were thinking about like, how can we share all the resources, maximum amount of resources with people around this topic with art as the backdrop. So that was really powerful initiative for us, and it's something that's ongoing aspect of what I do. Man, as far as a failure, I would say, as an organizer, it's like 20% success and 80% failure, right? And I can't think of a specific failure connected directly to like an like artist initiative. Um, but if someone else would be able to answer that question, I think it's a great one. And yeah.
Yeah, the failure part can be hard because, like you said, even with those percentages, uh, it I think that's part of what we signed up for. It's like you kind of go into it knowing that, especially things that are systemically and systematically built,
Right,
that some, it's not going to go the greatest because then would we be as loud?
right,
So yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I think there's also some levels of growth mindset there. Failures are cool in some aspects, so we can learn how to know all the different parts that are happening, not just what's shown
right,
to us. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think the work that y'all are doing is really important. But continue out the storytelling part. Yes, yes, yes. Storytelling is super important, and not just digital storytelling. Like we got to get back to writing,
hmm
finding ways to archive those things. Um, yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. Go ahead, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. And I agree with you. Like, there's success in failure, right? In that, like, knowing how did you fail, and highlighting the issues, the systemic issues, and how we get around that. So it's like we can still look at the organizing work. We can still find that as a win for organizing because we can mobilize people around that failure as well. I would say like there one instance, there's a train station not far from the gallery that they have an art activation board. So the MTA has like these spaces that you can activate on the subway. Um, and it's been really difficult to have like meaningful conversation. We've been begging them to exhibit art there, and they have just been not great with communication. Um, and so it makes us think about like how do we even escalate that, right? And so yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's real. Yeah, communication, and some of that could be just by coincidence or by random error. But again, you also leave it up to some of that the emails might be seen. The communication might be there, and it's just not pushed forward on purpose, and that can lead to levels of stress. But again, don't give up on it because somebody had to do some things before us and it not go what we thought was successful for us to carry it on and reimagine, even use things like the EDP, the engineering design process, and iterate until we figure out something for our grandchildren and them.
Just,
I know, I
can I
know
jump
we're
in?
at, oh
Oh,
no,
we're at
sorry.
time. Oh
Karlynn,
no, we're
go,
at
go
time.
ahead. Yeah,
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say, Adrian, I love that you brought that up because it's really about one step after the next, right? So one example from patient advocacy days that I did with Allie here, we got a copay cap on insulin in New York State a few years ago, and it was high. It was like $100 a month, which is still a lot. But we kept at it and we kept at it. We pushed it to the federal government. Then they put the $35 cap for people on Medicare, which didn't really help, us younger people. But once that happened, then the state came back and rethought about it. And starting this year, it's $0 pre-deductible. So sometimes the win comes after a lot of steps. You just keep on at it, you keep on going, and like you said, a failure sometimes turns into a success later.
Love that.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all. Thank all y'all. Like this was really inspiring. I missed all of the other teaching artists Tuesdays. I saw the notification and I was like doing other things. And today I was like, something just told me make sure that I logged on. And wow, yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, I just want to add like one tiny thing if I can. I come from a theater background and work at the intersection of art and social justice, and I think that there are so many examples across history of how people have woven theatricality and storytelling into their activism. Like one example, I'm sure of a million that's coming to mind is like what organizers in the ACT UP movement did during the AIDS crisis and organize in how they organized, like organizing die-ins highly theatrical and that's like an example to me of the intersection or of like one way that the intersection of arts and activism can look. We also talk about storytelling, like the power of the story. If we're gathering people in rooms to tell our lived experiences, who needs to be there? Like, like often we're doing it like for ourselves, and that's amazing. That's power in and of itself. But can we get our elected official, like, or someone who is in these lines of creating change to come and listen to the story as well? How are we activating our audience after we tell the story to create movement, and pick up that mantle, and take the next action to change the thing?
And definitely everything we've talked about today, if y'all could also find a sprinkle of it to introduce to our young people. Some of the greatest conversations I've had about politics have been with fourth graders. And a lot of times it's because they don't have certain biases, certain knowledge beforehand. And especially if you are working with young people already and they have that rapport, that safe vulnerability to, be okay with not understanding things and trusting your information. You never know where they're going to learn some of this stuff in the future or become complacent with those systematic and systemic systems, thinking that's just the norm. But if we sprinkle those seeds, we may not see the harvest, but I promise you it'll be worth it. Like, even if they just sit at you like this, okay, try it. Find an engaging way, especially storytelling. There's lyrics and poems and all those things that you can really engage young people with. So just putting that in our atmosphere and holding myself accountable as I work with young people to do a little bit more than just say in these forums and make some
Oh,
projects happen.
you're giving Brooklyn Arts Council ideas for our curriculum. Thank you.
That's so funny, Skye, because I was also earlier I was having a meeting with someone from our Teaching Artist Affairs Committee, and we were talking about like what does it mean to teach resistance to young people. So giving us at the roundtable some ideas as well for our future PDs that we're putting together. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who attended, but also especially to our panelists for being a part of this conversation, sharing your expertise, knowledge, resources, all of that good stuff, and to our friends at Brooklyn Arts Council, especially Skye and Allie, who took the time. I know you're very busy friends of ours, but took the time to put this together, bring this excellent panel together. So just thank you so much for being a part of this. Folks, I promise I will send you an email with all of the recordings, resources, including the resource packet and recording from tonight, by the end of the week. So look for that email from me. Also, for folks who are interested, next week on Wednesday, March 4th, from 4 to 7 p.m., the Roundtable is hosting an in-person event at Materials for the Arts. It's called Pathways to Professionalism, Teaching Artists Career Resource Forum. So it's a 3-hour event. We'll do a panel about your sort of teaching artist career path. And we'll also have an opportunity for attendees to have a quick fire one-on-one resume work chat with one of our panelists. There will also be an opportunity to shop at the Materials for the Arts warehouse and take materials home for free. There will be snacks. So the registrant list is limited. The space is limited. So if you're interested in joining, please register ASAP. I will put the link in the chat now and take a look. We've got some other events coming up as well. And we hope to see you at any number of them or all of them if you can join us. And yeah, you'll be hearing from us soon. Thank you. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening and stay safe and warm out there.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.